Elon has just come out some pretty explosive statements on the US EV bill, the terrible things that could happen as a result. And he also talks about a shortage of children and that we should all have more children. And really some quite staggering statements in there. So I want to play you two clips here, about 2 minutes each, of those core bits of what Elon's saying. And we'll discuss whether or not we agree with that and whether he makes sense. Is the man right? Well, he usually is, isn't he? Before we do, though, I want to encourage you to download the top 40 UBS stock picks, their top 40 buys, because it's completely free. It's a beautiful benchmark. You can download it for free at felixfriends.org/top 40. You can also come and join our free webinar this weekend. I'll be teaching you how you beat the market in 2022. Completely free. Again, it's a 90-minute webinar. It's running this weekend. It won't be on YouTube. It won't be recorded. It won't be live here, anything like that. So if you want to join it, which I encourage you to do, go to felixfriends.org/webinar or simply scan that little QR code down here and it'll take you there. But without further ado, I give you the man himself. I give you Elon Musk.
Credit because we were no longer eligible because we'd made so many electric cars. Tesla's made roughly 2/3 of all the electric cars in the United States. I'm not sure if most people are aware of that. So Tesla's made basically twice as many electric vehicles as the rest of industry combined. And we don't need the $7,500 tax credit. I would say, honestly, I would just can this whole bill. Don't pass it. That's my recommendation.
What about the support, though, for the charging network? I mean, there are parts of this bill and no?
No. I mean, do we need support for gas stations? We don't. So there's no need for this for support for a charging network. I would delete it. Delete.
Okay. All right.
I'm literally saying get rid of all subsidies. But also for oil and gas.
If you think about also how this affects your competitors, does that impact how some of your view on this?
I mean, maybe they need it. I don't know. But I think just generally, I'm in favor of deleting subsidies. I mean, when we started Tesla, there were no EV subsidies at all, and gasoline was super cheap. We did not anticipate any subsidies. That came later, and that came the $7,500 tax credit came as a result not of Tesla activity, but of General Motors lobbying for it. I would just say just delete them all.
All right, but there's some other good things in this bill that some would argue. I mean, a lot of money earmarked for R&D. Would you want to put that towards something?
No.
Okay. All right. We're going to move on from the bill because I think we get what you're saying on it.
In general, we should just, if we don't cut government spending, something really bad's going to happen. This is crazy. Our spending is so far in excess of revenue, it's insane. Like you could zero out all billionaires in the country. There's all this like anti-billionaire BS. If you zeroed out all the billionaires, you still wouldn't solve the deficit.
All right, I'll ask you another question around the billionaire BS. Say tomorrow we've talked. You get the phone call from President Biden. Next day, actually, we decide we elect you to Congress. Somehow this happens. You're now working on tax bills. You're working on tax policy. How do you tax someone like you? How do you tax billionaires?
I mean, first of all, I pay a lot of tax. I mean, my marginal tax rate is like 53%. So that's.
Okay, I'm just going to pause on here. I'm going to jump forward one little bit. I'll play you one more bit, which is an interesting one about his view on the world, really. So not just the US or EVs, but a little bit more of a controversial subject.
Fully considered, so you've got to include the supply chain in that. The fundamental constraint is labor. There are not enough people. I can't emphasize this enough. There are not enough people. And I think one of the biggest risks to civilization is the low birth rate and the rapidly declining birth rate. It is, and yet so many people, including smart people, think that there are too many people in the world and think that the population is growing out of control. It's completely the opposite. Please look at the numbers. if people don't have more children, civilization is going to crumble. Mark my words.
That's a pretty bold statement there, isn't it, from Elon? So let's look at that one to start with. Let's look at his numbers there. And the interviewer asked him next, is that why you have so many children? Well, I want to show you a couple of statistics here, and I'll make this as big as I possibly can. This is the speed at which the world population grew, doubled. So we are at the moment down here. How big can we make this? At the moment, we are sort of down here, where it's taken 37 years to go from 2.5 to 5 billion. It's taken 40. It's going to take 48 years to go to 4 to 8 billion. So you can be slowing down a little bit here, and then it's going to take another 70 years to go to the next 10 billion and then 10.8 billion and so on. So we are still growing. The population is definitely still growing worldwide. So don't think it isn't. And let me show you what it looks like. Here we are at sort of 7.7 or 8 billion or something like that at the top. And it's going to continue going up. But, and I think this is really what he's talking about. I think when he talks about people, yes, the population growth is slowing down. So it's growing less quickly. But as long as it's above zero, there are still going to be more people here in 2100 than there are right now. So it's not like, we're going to get rid of a lot of people here. I think what he's talking about is the engineering shortage. And one of the reasons I think why Elon is rather fond of China as well, China has the most science, tech, engineering, mathematics graduates of anywhere, really, about 8 or 9 times that of the US. And if you look at this little chart here, so the skills gap in the engineering industry is huge. As people are retiring, they are likely, in the manufacturing industry, is going to be sort of a 2.4 million, that's about half the job openings shortage. So that's, I think, what he's talking about. I think he's really talking about engineers. He wants you to have engineering babies, not just more babies in, Africa or Asia or somewhere where he hasn't got a factory. I think that is a real shortage. But, if you have more children, say, in the US, how many of them are actually going to go and get engineering degrees? And how many of them are going to want to work at Tesla? Is that really what we're talking about here? So I think it's a slightly odd and slightly surprising statement there. He has quite a few children. Perhaps he genuinely believes this, or perhaps he's just really frustrated with his HR and his ability to hire people in Texas and places like that. So I'd love to know what you think of that. Do you think we have too many children? Do you think we have too many people? Do you think we have too few people? Or do you think it's just a question of people in the wrong place? Is there a sort of allocation of people? Do we need more immigration? Do we need less immigration? Whoa, we're going to get political here. So let's have that conversation down below in the chat, or come and join me on the Discord where we discuss all this stuff as well. You can get that through the Patreon as usual. Here's the link, felixfriends.org/Patreon. And thank you for tuning in. I hope to see you on the webinar this weekend. It's going to be really fun. It's going to be super packed of information. It always is. How to beat the market in 2022 is what we're going to look at this weekend. And go to felixfriends.org/webinar, or simply scan that QR code down below. And I appreciate you tuning in. See you on the next one.